Okay.
Good evening and welcome to the semifinal round of the McNaughty Racing League. My name is Toon, aka Nix, and joining the broadcast today are my esteemed broadcast colleagues SlowMoe and TCase. How are you gentlemen doing?
Doing very well. Thank you so much, Toon. How about yourself?
Doing good, doing good. How about you, TCase?
Oh, I'm doing great. Great to be here with you guys.
Right. So, as I've stated, this is the second to last round of the McNaughty Racing League for Season 1, and this one is going to really be one to keep your eyes on because anything can happen coming into this round. So, for today's race, we will be running the Honda Civic Type R FK2 2015 around Grand Valley South in reverse at night with 10 times tire or 12 times tire wear, my apologies, 30 laps in a 10-minute qualifying session with sports softs and sports mediums required, but hards are available if somebody deems it necessary. So, SlowMoe, would you like to inform our lovely viewers of the rules going into this round?
Yeah, absolutely. So tonight our racers are going to do 10 minutes worth of qualifying. They're going to get a little bit of extra time there for that final lap as they go through their qualifying. The main thing to keep in mind for today is we're going to see 5 people eliminated after today's split. So the way that the points are going to stack up is they're going to get points, obviously, for first, second, and third place within their splits. But then they also get points based on their total time against all racers. So that you're going to see last week. It was top down, but what we've done this week is the points are worth double. It makes it anybody's game. The other thing to call out, and it's really kind of an interesting aspect, but if somebody gets the podium finish, they can't be eliminated. They're on to the finals no matter what points rankings they have. So that could throw in a little bit of a wild card. I know we got some really good folks that have been putting in a lot of work for this week. So we're going to see some exciting racing, I guarantee it, tonight.
As you see here on your screen, you have the driver lineups, and you'll also see an icon next to their names, where you have the YouTube symbol, my apologies, meaning that they are, of course, going to either be live on YouTube or they will be having a VOD up after the race. Now, over on the Twitch side, it'll pretty much be the same case. If you do decide to tune in to the others, please be sure to mute their stream and leave us open. That way you don't miss any vital information that may be coming through from the broadcast on this end. Moving over into the standings, some of you may notice that there's been a slight difference in the standings than what was originally posted at the end of Elimination Round 1. That is due to some penalties being handed out through steward decisions and the like. And so, as you can see, GLK Sneaky and Sophia are now tied for second. And if we scroll down just a little more into the standings, you can also see that, well, CBD and Arrow are still tied for 14, so there has been no change there. The dark orange on the standings also means that they are at the most risk of elimination tonight, and I'd say that's what a faded orange means they're not quite out of the woods yet. But then again, those in white at the lower parts of the standings are definitely far from safe. The only way you can really guarantee your safety outside of placing well in your split is, of course, going to be making sure that you wind up on a podium, which will 100% keep you safe from elimination and throw you into the finals. Now, coming over here, we have our splits, with split 1 having Lakoboro 809, GSR Shaggy 88, Salamander MN, Chief Apollo 11, Dubs McSubbin, MK, also known as Masked Koala, CBD driver Arrow, and Nikki Hunt. Over in split 2, this one's gonna be a very competitive one, especially for the top three, because you have Hawko1337, GLK Sneaky, Sophia, Speed Racer, PhD Papa's House of Games, Art Vandalay, Corridor 71, Jimmy K9, Fernando Button, and then rounding off Split 2 is AngryFredbird. How are you feeling about Split 1 so far?
I'm pretty excited to see what we got here, between Lakoboro, Shaggy, Sal, Chief Apollo. I'm going to tell you something. I think my dark horse for this week is going to be CBD. I got a chance to chat with him a little bit before the race, and he has been putting in a ton of practice. Ironically, kind of like last week, he a lot of these drivers are still playing it really close. They're not giving up their strategies. I think it's really going to be cool to see how the variety of strategies play out. I don't expect anybody to run hards. Obviously, those are available for them. I'm really curious to see where these folks are going to start out, whether they're starting on softs or hards, or excuse me, softs or mediums in the beginning. Again, it might definitely depend on where they start in the pack, but this is not an easy track. It's a really tough car track combination. So really excited to see, how these guys handle it. TCase, what are your thoughts for tonight?
My biggest thing, I think it's going to be turn one from the start, watching how aggressive they take it into turn one. Are they going to be pushing for the lead from the get-go and try to run away with it? Or are they going to bide their time, take it easy, try to avoid any contact, and just play the long game? And I think we'll see a mixture of that. Like you said, it'll be interesting what tires everybody starts on. If we get a good mix of tire usage there, I think turn one can be really exciting.
All right, now we're getting close to starting qualifying. Let's see how everybody does going into Split 1 of the semifinal rounds. And best of luck to all of our drivers in this round.
This will be a really good opportunity for us to see how some of these guys are handling turn one. Toon, I know you said you ran some laps personally. I did as well. And man, it's a handful, with this car track combination and coming down that straightaway with that off camber turn. Man, it was really tough for me to find a breaking point. So, I don't know what your thoughts are, but boy, I was having a lot of trouble with turn one. The rest of the track, I felt like was really pretty fun, but there's a couple pucker points there as you're coming down the straight.
Oh, without a doubt. So when I was doing the practice run, I noticed when I was braking towards the end of the tunnel going into turn one, if I wasn't on like the proper side of the track, the front end of my car would kind of try and give out a little bit. And there were a couple times where I broke towards the end of the tunnel and my front end decided to just go and hit the wall to the left of me. It was it was unpleasant to say the least. These drivers definitely have some incredible talent, and honestly, this league is not for everybody. Given some of these races will definitely force you to become a better driver as a whole, and definitely have you thinking 1 to 2 steps ahead of your competition.
Yeah, you're right, Toon. And with that, you think most of these drivers spend a lot of their time in the daily races doing GT sport, and that's mostly GT cars. So you don't get a lot of front wheel drive cars like this on tracks like this if you're just doing the dailies like a lot of these drivers do. So this league is definitely testing their abilities and providing them with something different, which is really cool.
Yeah, I'm thinking that if the drivers don't pace themselves when it comes time to start lap 1 of the race, it's going to have some dire consequences for everybody involved. Given how drastic the damage in turn 1 can be if you take it wrong, I would not be surprised if we see some drivers go into the pits multiple times just to repair.
Yeah, Toon, you bring a good point up about that heavy damage, and I don't know that we really spent enough time talking about it, but in my experience, that heavy damage, if you do tires, a full tank of gas, and then repair your damage, you could be in the pits for almost a whole 20 seconds, not including your ins and outs. So, that's going to your point, if there's extra pits that are coming up for damage, that time is going to add up really quick for some of these folks. And as we watch, it looks like we're seeing Salamanders come through the first turn. Shaggy Doo put up the 116. What is that? A 695 or 895? Excuse me. So looks like that's the benchmark so far.
Yeah, but this is also still the early stages of qualifying. We're not even at the halfway mark, so that time could easily drop down to maybe a 116.4, 116.2. Somebody may in their groove instead of 115. Anything can happen.
And it's important for them to be able to get a lap in. I've had Lakoboro up here on my screen, and he hasn't even been able to put a lap in because of penalties, having to reset and go back to the pits and start his out lap over again. So just trying to get a clean lap in around here is going to be a real challenge.
Yeah, wow. That in itself is going to be a problem, especially because when you're focused on getting to the pits or getting out of the pits as fast as possible, you can get a little bit of tunnel vision and think, okay, I'm out of here. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Cross. And then next thing you know, either once you get out of the pits or once you're on your way through the tunnel, you're going to wind up with a 3-second penalty. So it's, yeah, like I said, this isn't for everybody. This definitely causes you to think 1 to 2 steps ahead and become a better driver as a whole. As we see that CBD drivers already set a 116.418. Wow, that time for fastest lap did not last long. I hope everybody else can get some solid laps in before the end of qualifying.
Well, Shaggy just went into the pits to put on a fresh pair of softs so he can combat that time. He's on his out lap right now, so I think he's looking at taking that spot away from him.
I wouldn't be surprised if that is indeed the case, honestly. So you guys know that depending on the track, your outlaps either shorter or longer than normal. What have you noticed with like the outlaps compared to the hot laps for the circuit that they're going to be racing on today?
Well, I've noticed on this that their outlap is several seconds longer, about 4 to 5 seconds longer on that outlap. So it's a bit slower, and then, once they get that in, they got to make sure they've got space to put in a clean lap, and then you go. So you're wasting time every outlap. So if you're picking up penalties or damage and you got to get back to the pits, you're wasting that much time to get back around on your outlap before you're able to put in, a good flying lap.
Right. Now, I noticed something when we were spectating Nicky Hunt a second ago. His front right tire is already getting decimated by the track layout. You think some drivers going to be running multiple stints on softs, or do you think they'll just run the softs as long as they can and then jump onto the mediums?
I think it's going to be as long as they can. Obviously, it's a quicker tire, but that front tire that's taking all the punishment, it doesn't have very long in it. So there is that point of diminishing returns of, how long is this tire advantageous to me and how long is it slowing me down? So they've been practicing all week figuring out that tire wear. I think a lot of these drivers have a good idea of how many laps they can competitively put down on the softs before having to switch over to the mediums. But then you got to ask, how long are those mediums going to last? Are we going to see one stop getting off the softs onto the mediums, and then they're going to have to pit again and decide, do we go back to a quicker tire or do I continue on with the mediums, depending on the race length? Because they've also been mostly doing practice, and now they're going to be running with a lot of other drivers around them, and that completely changes everything.
Oh, that it does. I don't know how many people have gone in and done practice on the mediums. I'd like to be optimistic and say everybody has gone and practiced on their mediums to try and get at least a general feel for how long they're going to last and what they can expect in terms of like average race pace. But let's see what Lakoboro does as he comes up into one of the final turns. In lap 2, outlap of a 1:22.811, already on pace to beat their previous best time for this practice session, as we are approaching the 2-minute warning for the qualifying session in round 1 of the Naughty Racing League semifinals.
One thing I love about this track is just how pretty the scenery is. It's always nice to just look around while everybody's driving and take it all in.
Absolutely, but as a driver, especially in a race such as this, you really don't have as much of a luxury when it comes to taking in the scenery, especially because, well, it is also a night race, and honestly, I thought with it being a night race, there'd be a little more issues in terms of visibility and things of that nature, but it seems like PD is pretty generous with the ambient lighting when it comes to the night races.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, Toon. And, the other thing I'll add to that is, as I was running this, just in some practice laps, it's one of those tracks that once you kind of, get familiar with going the reverse direction, and it's easy to remember the turns and kind of what you're looking at. And, as we watch here that CBD driver going into that well-lit tunnel there, he's almost drifting it around that turn there. So that'll be really interesting to see how that plays out when we get to the race pace.
Oh yeah, and with there being about, 34 seconds to the end of qualifying, I think CBD is going to be holding on to that fastest lap and taking P1 going into the proper race. But
doing me proud.
Oh, absolutely. But there is also that little bit of a window. That way people that are currently on a lap are able to wrap it up and get one last attempt in at busting that record, as we see Salamander taking said opportunity right now. Do you think anybody's going to pull off a buzzer beater fastest lap?
Ooh, that's a great question, because I think Shaggy Doo just did.
Oh, Shaggy did in impressive fashion too, with a 1:16.191. If anybody's gonna try and beat that, they've only got this opportunity to do it.
Yeah, I think Sal might have a chance. I know we're watching him kind of run through the course right now. Let's see how that plays out for him.
CBD just took it back.
Holy cow!
It's back and forth, hundredths of a second here.
Easy come, easy go with a 1:16.075.
Wow.
Honestly, I'd be a little miffed if my time got beaten by just that narrow of a margin.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
And there's so many spots where as a driver, like if I would have just pushed that tiny bit or even slowed down just a bit entering that corner, that would have been the time difference. And you only get so many goes at it, and you don't really see where you could have done that until you see somebody else do it just that much faster.
While we wait for the close here, let me just remind everybody that if you guys make any donations, that all goes into the league pot. This is a community-funded league. The drivers, the folks that make it into the finals, are all going to get something back. I think, if I remember correctly, 10th or 9th place is going to get their money back, and it only goes up from there. So if you guys send in any donations or anything like that during the race, that goes right into the pool for the drivers.
Absolutely. And I honestly believe that the community funding for this league is just a beautiful thing, because you can see the outpour of support for our drivers and for this league, not only from people sharing the channel and these broadcasts, but also taking some of their hard-earned money and just giving it back to the league and supporting a hobby or a sport that we all enjoy. As we come into the results for qualifying, taking the pole position will be HRA CBD driver with a 1:16.075. Taking second, but barely, is GSR Shaggy Doo with a 116.191, only slightly over a tenth of a difference there. Coming into P3 and rounding up our podium for the starting grid is Lakoboro 809 with a 116.508. Coming in fourth, we have Chief Apollo 11 with a 116.569. Fifth, rounding out the top five, will be Stubbs McStubbin with a 116.577. Oh, wow, that is dangerously close there. 116.577 compared to the 116.569. That's 8 thousandths of a second right there, folks. Coming in P6, we have Salamander MN with a 116.658. In P7, we'll have Mass Koala with a 116.680. In P8, we'll have Aero US with a 117.910. As we jump over to P9, rounding out our starting grid is Nikki Hunt with a 119.733. All very good times. Don't let these qualifying times fool you. Only a limited time in qualifying doesn't really showcase a driver's full abilities, and there's going to be tons of racing where these drivers can prove themselves to back that up. What's baffling me, though, folks, is the fact that the top 7 is all within 1 second. It is mind-bogglingly close. So I feel going into race 1, we're going to be seeing those gaps get even smaller and smaller as everyone gets more accustomed to the track and gets more of their car broken in for the race. I just got word from production that our first donation of the night came in, $1.99 from Apex Pro Chris, if I could speak, saying, "Doing well, boys. Thank you so very much, Chris. On behalf of the entire Racing League, we appreciate it immensely."
Hey,
That's
thanks,
amazing.
Chris.
You know, Toon, I wanted to add, as you were talking about how close some of these drivers are in their qualifying times, you know, this is an extremely competitive and talented group of drivers we're going to see here tonight, not only in the first split, but also the second. So, those seconds are going to add up. And I mean, the strategy for this race is just going to play so much into their final time. I will tell you personally, one of my thoughts here that I think you might see is as some of these folks get damaged, whether they've already hit both tire compounds, you might see somebody start on softs, touch the mediums for a little bit, maybe they get some damage, and then they're going to go in and switch onto softs. So let's see how that works out through the race.
Speaking of the race, as we get this started, let's see if anybody might be a little eager. Nope. Everybody decided to wait for the lights to go out. No itchy gas pedals. And we are underway for split 1 of the semifinals of the Naughty Racing League as we come into the tunnel with CBD driver. Actually,
Look at Lakoboro go.
Lakoboro's flying. Oh, Stubbs McStubbin's gone wide. As we've got side-by-side action between CBD driver and Shaggy Doo fighting for second, with Lakoboro appearing to try and get as much of a lead as possible. A little bit of rubbing going on between them as Lakoboro's going into the second tunnel with a 1.2, about 1 1/4 second lead over second place right now.
Shaggy's got a penalty, and you know the only person that started on medium, I think, was Aero. Everybody else began on softs.
Oh,
Lakoboro's
wow.
got a penalty now.
Wow.
Wonder where
Second
that
and a
came
half
from.
for Lakoboro. He did a little bit of cut the corner just a little bit too much. And that was a great turn 1. That was what I was talking about. Who's going to be conservative? Who's going to be aggressive? And Lakoboro just went for it. He saw an opening and darted it up and then let Shaggy and CBD fight it out behind him and tried to put some distance. But now with that time penalty, it's kind of all negated.
Oh, without a doubt. But there's still 29 laps of racing to go, so those positions could be made back up.
Well, and worth mentioning that CBD made it through there unscathed, no penalty for him.
Very good. That was great wheel-to-wheel action. You don't get to see that a lot of time in the dailies, and getting to watch that here, watching two drivers respect each other's space and just push the limit within, the rules, and it's really nice to see.
Oh yeah, and I'm hoping that looks like it's raining cones, folks. I'm hoping that we will see no need for the stewards going forward or anything like that. It seems like everybody has this race completely under control, and seems everybody is especially mindful of their fellow drivers, especially with how bad turn 1 could get if somebody is a little too eager.
Absolutely. And it looks like CBD drivers now kind of running away with it, and we got a really great battle for second. There's 4 drivers really right there ready to go after them.
Oh yeah, I think CBD driver is going to be doing a good portion of this race with a giant target on his back. Seems that everybody's trying to use their slipstream right now to kind of help each other close that gap, which is very nice to see.
And you really do need to utilize that slipstream. With these underpowered cars, you need every bit of advantage that you can get on these long straights.
Oh, for sure.
And we got one who lost it. MK spun going into turn 1.
Oh, that is really unfortunate. It seems our first pit for damages is also going to be from Master, as he has damaged the front part of his car and his right wheel. Let's hope that he'll be able to bounce back from this.
You know, heavy damage isn't something a lot of people do there, but what you guys might not realize is that damage doesn't go away during the race. In order to get rid of that, they have to pit.
Yeah, that is correct. And I'm also looking through, Lakoboro also has damage in the same part. The front right of his car is damaged as well, and he has some really bad tire wear to go along with it.
That's definitely going to cost Lakoboro tons of time. Now we'll have to see if Lakoboro's just going to ride out the damage and make up the lost time later, or maybe within the next lap or two go into the pits just to repair the damage. Those tires are already just getting decimated on the front right, and seems like the gas tank is not too far behind it either.
Which is good. As they burn fuel, they definitely will get that car lighter, which helps with that tire wear.
Oh, absolutely. But with the damage, it's going to definitely negatively affect the handling and also cause certain tires to maybe even fall off faster than normal. It all depends on where that damage is located. I know if you take damage like just straight on your front bumper, it's going to cost you some aero, and that's precious time that you'll be losing. So everybody needs to drive extremely carefully.
And as we look at the front of the pack there, you know, they're still within a second in the first three drivers of each other. So there is a lot of racing still left to happen. You see Chief Apollo's not far back behind them in fourth. And they're just starting to get a little bit of this space between fourth and fifth there. It's not a lot, but a little bit more than what you've got in the front of the pack there.
Does sure look that way. And I think with how tightly packed it is in this shootout for the podium with or for first place with the podium runners right now, it might be a game of who's going to pit first. I think there's got to be some questions run through these drivers' heads as they realize how close they are to being in first place of the race at this current moment, and just how much they could benefit or be penalized really by their own actions of trying to stay out on some dead tires, or maybe waiting for an opportunity to comfortably pit and then go out and make up positions while their other competitors are in the pits.
Yeah, Lakoboro and Shaggy are going to have to pit. Neither of them have any tread left on their front right. They're going to have to make a pit here because they're dropping down the order.
Oh, they are. I wonder how some drivers are already like further worse off on their softs as compared to their other drivers.
Oh no, they're staying out. Out. See how much I know.
Hey, some may see it as foolish, some may see it as brave. At the end of the day, if it works for the drivers, it works for the drivers.
Absolutely. And it might just be that time lost in the pits is way more than trying to push it a couple extra laps.
Yeah, it might be a case of the reward's not worth the risk and things like that. But I hope that the drivers also don't get too complacent with how the car's handling, because those front lefts seem to be going too. Seems like, actually, it seems, at least on Lakobo's car, the rear tires are just having a nice, relaxing time. It's just the front tires that appear to be taking all the abuse.
And that's same with Shaggy. I wonder if they have the same brake bias setup, because their rears are just fine, but their fronts are gone, and it's not the same over at some of the other drivers. SlowMoe, who did you say was starting on the mediums?
We had Aero started on the mediums, and to the brake balance point, it's funny. We had some people that said they're running 5 to the front. Other people are running 5 to the back. So I think you do have some different strategies when it comes to the brake balance.
Oh, and we got Lakoboro in the pits.
in the pits, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
I think in the grand scheme of things, that is definitely a wise move. But now one of the important questions is Lakoboro going to completely top up or just go good enough for the life cycle of the tires as he jumps back onto another stint of the softs?
Looks like all the way full, and he's probably going to get his damage repaired too, so.
Yeah, when I crashed into the wall during the free practice, the aero damage itself just cost me 3 seconds. I don't know what full-on tire damage would add to that as well.
I beat up my car pretty good on a couple different laps, and there was 2 different damages that you fixed. One was the aero, the other was the mechanical, and I had it up to 4 or 5 seconds on both. So
wow.
Depending on how bad you smash your car into the wall, that can add up quite a bit as well. So
I'm flipping through here, and not only does Shaggy have no tire left on his front right, he's also almost out of fuel. So I imagine we're going to see him, and Salamander coming into the pits. Oh,
do you think anybody's running a fuel saving?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'm not sure. I know either short shifting, or you can even adjust your fuel in your car to run a little more lean. That's a great question.
Yeah, short shifting for sure. You when I drove this car, that seemed like the way to do it. And sometimes when you're driving these, the regular vehicles, those cars aren't made to red line out all the way. So you're going to get some of your best power band in a regular type of use. So this may be one of those situations.
Let's see. Now, the CBD driver hasn't really given up first place since he took it, and by comparison to all of his fellow competitors, he's doing marvelously. Still got, about a quarter of a tank of gas, just now losing that front right tire. I wonder how CBD driver's been going about this entire race. Think there's been plenty of short shift in, maybe taking some lines that are easier on the tires?
Yeah, he would have to. He's lasted so much longer, and being at the front. And I guess being at the front does give you an advantage. You have a little more at your disposal. You're running in clean air. You can be a little more gentle on the tires.
Oh, absolutely, because if you're in first and you defend right, everybody has to race your race instead of everybody racing their own.
And he's far from out of the weeds with Chief Apollo right on his tail.
Oh, yeah, far from it. And Chief Apollo's fuel and tire wear seem to be about equal to CBD drivers. As we see, MK's gone into the pits on just 1% fuel. That was running on fumes in a very dangerous game. Chief Apollo's definitely applying that pressure to CBD driver, though, as we say. Oh, that did not look pleasant. I feel there might be a steward's inquiry in the near future over that one.
Looks like both drivers made it through, though, no damage, which is good.
Oh, that is a relief.
See there. And this will be interesting, too. So Arrows on the mediums has now worked their way up to P3. They definitely have a big gap to get up to these top 2 drivers that have yet to pit. Be interesting to see how many more laps Arrow can do on these mediums compared to Chief Apollo and CBD driver.
I got to say, the mediums look like they went through pretty quick. You know, if you look at that that front right, I didn't expect them to deteriorate quite that fast. And you know, the other thing I just noticed, we saw Lakoboro go into the pits, but he didn't change compounds. He took another set of softs, so we know he's at
Ooh.
least got another pit somewhere along the lines.
Very interesting. So he's going to try to get as many quick laps as he can in early, and plan on pitting again to those mediums. It's an interesting strategy. We'll see if any of the other drivers have any plans to pit more than once.
I feel like we're going to be seeing plenty of double stints on softs, and with Arrow being already done with the stint on the mediums.
Oh no!
I would not be surprised if Arrow just multi-stints on soft. Now we've got some very close action between Lakoboro and Shaggy Doo, though. Looks like Lakoboro is taking a more defensive line. Shaggy filing in right behind as we go into the next braking zone. Oh,
what a move!
That was an insane dive into the turn. Shaggy outbroke Lakoboro, and it paid off.
Very nice.
I don't think Lakoboro's going to take that one lying down, as Lakoboro's adding immense pressure onto Shaggy. We see that Chief Apollo and CBD Driver have also now gone in for their first pit stop, both running 2% of fuel. It seems like they were on some pretty similar methodologies for their fuel saving and their tire wear. Now, do either of you happen to know how long a non-damaged pit stop is with tire change and fuel?
I have not been paying attention, but I think we're about to find out. As there we go, Salamander and Chief Apollo just come out of the pits. Oh, what a mix! What a mix right here. Lakoboro wants to go for it.
Let's hope Lakoboro's mindful.
And he just gets it in front of Shaggy. But can Shaggy come back at him? Lakoboro's got to place his car perfectly.
Oh yeah,
it looks like he's doing it. He's doing it. Well done.
Well done, Lakoboro.
On that previous lap, Shaggy was able to dive in front of him, and even though he couldn't get as much speed out of the turn, because he was ahead, there was nothing Lakoboro could do but stay behind him. And so getting that car placed perfectly, even if you don't get the acceleration out of the turn, you can stay ahead for quite a while before they're able to pass again.
Oh yeah. Let's see what Salamander's doing up in P1. Doing a stint on the mediums, about half a tank of fuel, and over a 4.5, almost 5-second lead on Chief Apollo. Let's see if Salamander's going to be able to maintain that lead and maybe even extend that gap to where he could earn himself, in a sense, a free pit. As we see him come across the line, setting a 1:18.575, second and a half-ish longer than his personal best, but we've still got over just under 2/3 of the race left to go. So this is anybody's game.
And he pitted just before, or on the same lap as Shaggy. He was ahead of Shaggy. When they came out of the pits, you could still see Salamander from Shaggy's point of view. So I didn't see when Salamander got up there. I guess it was just when they all pitted and Shaggy was fighting with Lakoboro that allowed Salamander to kind of sneak away with it.
Speaking of Lakoboro, it seems CBD Driver was able to take P2 off of Lakoboro's hands.
And you know, CBD Driver also took softs on his stop, so he's second set of softs. I'm assuming he's probably going to run these as long as he can before he has to go mediums. And boy, that middle of the pack, they are fighting, aren't they? Look at that group right there.
Oh yeah, they're definitely wanting to get as many placement points as they can, especially with how the grid order will be set going into the finals.
Lakoboro's got a 5-second, I guess, track penalty. He might get another one there if he's not careful.
Yeah, half-second track limits penalty. I don't know how much time that really cuts off from your total lap time, though, in these essentially hot hatches. I know in some other cars, and of course, depending on the track, the half-second penalty.
He's in the wall.
Yes, he is.
Took a very, very intimate talk with the wall in the tunnel.
And that's damage.
Oh, that is damage? Ooh.
That's damage, and he's got no front right because he went back on those softs again. So Not looking good for Lakoboro right now.
I think the damage actually can really increase your tire wear too with some of the numbers we're looking at. So, it's got to be a tough decision. Are you going to go in and pit and repair that damage? You got to get new tires anyway, so why not, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it would be a complete fool's errand to just, stay out with damage and a completely gone front right tire.
He's not real high with fuel either, so.
Oh, no. Yeah, whether Lakoboro wants it or not, a pit stop is definitely in the immediate future for him. Looks like that damage is also playing a bit of a factor, along with maybe some slipstream, as Lakoboro ran quite wide and is ignoring the pit lane?
Wow.
Lakoboro,
wow.
You are the racer, and we are just observers at a distance, but please, see some reason.
Although, we saw some of these guys make some magic happen with very little gas last week, and this track is a little bit shorter, so maybe that is more gas than we think. If you look at the front of the pack, though, look at Salamander is getting a little bit of room. He's almost got a 4-second lead on CBD.
Oh, wow. And it looks like Salamander's still holding on to plenty of tire wear, but seeing as how CBD is on the softer compound while Salamander's on the mediums, I feel that gap is not going to be getting any larger anytime soon.
Yeah, it's shrinking now that you say that, so.
And given the current fuel of Salamander, I think he may have another lap or two before a pit is going to be mandatory for him.
All right, Lakoboro is essentially out of fuel. We'll see if he even makes it back to the pits, with Shaggy Doo coming into the pits as well with low fuel.
Oh, it looks like Lakoboro's he's
Lakoboro's
on fumes.
4. Yeah, he's coasting, isn't he? Oh, 0.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, that was Shaggy with 4.
And maybe his strategy, he knows how many pits of fuel before the end of the race, and maybe he had to do an extra lap he was a lap shorter on fuel, and he was still trying to make it around to fit his strategy. You see that a lot in motorsport of, do you adapt your strategy or do you stick to your strategy? It's hard to do, because sometimes when you switch your strategy up, you realize you should have kept it the same, and other times you're like, man, I really should have changed what I was doing, but wanted to stick with the game plan.
It's funny you say that. I did get a chance to talk to Shaggy before the race, and that was one thing that he really wanted to, focus on for the race. When I asked, if he had anything he was really trying to think of as keys, and, he, in not so many words, he said, I'm going to try and be flexible and adapt my game plan to what's going to work best. So, that's a game plan in itself, to your point.
Absolutely.
Speaking of having the opportunity to speak with some of the drivers, I had the pleasure of being able to have a chat with Salamander earlier today before the race, and Salamander's definitely feeling confident with this split and his possible results. I know that one thing definitely goes without question. Salamander greatly enjoys this league and loves this community that's been built up around this league, both before its inception and afterwards. I know he also was doing some theory crafting with his strategy. Was expecting about 7 to 8 laps as absolutely pushing it for the tires. And as you can see, I think race conditions go to prove some people's strategies might not have been as airtight as possible, but no fault to the drivers themselves when they were formulating these strategies. You never know how a race is going to go.
Absolutely. You can only do so much planning before the race, and you never know how it's going to pan out. As we saw, there's some contacts and people hit the walls, you get stuck in traffic, track temperatures, all that plays a factor in the race. And while you were talking about Salamander, he went in on the pits again, and he came back out on another set of he's back out on the softs now. So he switched it up.
just after the halfway point for this race, so I guess if it's any time to make sure you've ticked both the boxes for your tires, now is the time. Otherwise, you might wind up with some unfortunate results, especially if you were just running stints on nothing but softs and completely tuned out to the fact that you need mediums.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I'm showing CBD, the Koala, and Lakoboro that have only run soft so far.
Oh, I hope they get their wits about them and go and get on those mediums while they can. Otherwise, if they're going to try and run mediums towards the end of the race and not have a sizable lead, that could come back to bite them.
Well, here comes Mass Koala into the pits. Oh, maybe I'm wrong? Or did he just come out of the pits?
Mass Koala, I believe, just left the pits.
Yeah,
Okay.
just came out.
Still on softs.
Yep, another stint on softs and topped up on fuel.
And we saw, I mean, the medium tire, some of it lasted the same as the soft depending on the driver, and others it only lasted maybe 2 laps longer than the soft. So I think a lot of them are taking the view of, we're going to have to pit over and over again. Might as well do the softs till they run out, run 2 more laps on no tread, and throw another pair of softs, and then right there at the end for your last pit stop, slap those mediums on. I think that's what we're seeing from a lot of these drivers.
Agree, but as we see, Mass Koala just got a 1-second penalty for possible track limits. That's definitely something you don't want to see, especially if you're essentially going to be a back marker and have a sizable gap between yourself and the person ahead of you. I hope that Mass Koala is able to bounce back from this.
And we've got Arrow making a pit stop. He started on the medium, so he really gets to run softs for the rest of the race. Just kind of looking at his livery here, I didn't really get a good chance to look at too many of the cars' liveries, but we got to figure out who won the beauty contest today. That
is a really good question, especially because our resident livery designers they decided to take a little bit of a break for this one, and I don't blame them. Livery designing is it can be taxing, especially if you're trying to make multiples for an entire racing league.
I attempted it today, actually, and I got so far as placing 1 decal out on the car before I turned it off. I did not enjoy that process at all, so big shout out to all the people who put these liveries together, because, I mean, they're really cool, and it takes a lot of time and effort.
Oh, absolutely. We have just a plethora of wonderful talent in this league, be it from drivers to livery designers to our stewards to really everybody. Like, there's just, it's a wellspring of different experiences and different fields of knowledge, and I could not be happier to be a part of this community.
Same. A lot of fun, really, really good people, and just get to hang out and do something we all love doing together, which is a lot of fun. And if you like this, if you like Gran Turismo, you enjoy streaming, I think everybody should go ahead and be sure to click that like button. Subscribe to these channels. You saw earlier which drivers have channels. Us, your hosts, have channels. Check them out. Take a look. See what people are doing. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. So please be sure to like and subscribe and ring the bell, as they say, to turn on those notifications.
Yeah, to your point, the community is really something special. I can't say enough good things about everybody that is in it. Talk about, a welcoming and just a positive type of community. It really is incredible. As I watch CBD Driver, man, he is just out having a good old Sunday drive here, out checking out the coastline. He's having a great old time. He's almost got a 9-second, well, he's just over 8 seconds now.
Oh yeah, as we approach the last 2/3 of this, or the last third of this race, CBD Drivers definitely riding the razor's edge with that tire wear again. But at this rate, I'd expect nothing less. Now, unfortunately, after qualifying and before this race started, one of our drivers had a technical issue. So to Nikki Hunt, we are terribly sorry that this has happened to you, and we hate to see drivers miss races such as this.
That's unfortunate.
Not just because of risks of elimination or anything like that. Like, forget everything else. It's so irritating, especially speaking from experience. You're trying to relax, trying to have a fun race, unwind from your day, and your PlayStation, the game itself, has other plans in mind. Nikki, I don't blame you if you are fuming right now because of it, and I just hope that this doesn't deter you in any way from coming back for Season 2 or going and enjoying Gran Turismo as a whole. I hope that you're able to get your tech issues sorted out, and I hope that you're able to bounce back from this, man.
Absolutely. That is frustrating, Nikki. Sorry to hear that, man. While you were saying that, Toon, we had a couple pit stops, and Salamander has taken the lead yet again. Just over 7 seconds above CBD driver, because CBD and Chief Apollo both went into the pits.
Yeah, and CBD took his mediums, so he's checked all his compounds off. Chief Apollo is on softs.
All right.
So what leave us in terms of drivers that still need to tick their final box?
I show Mass Koala has only used soft. And then I think Lakoboro has only used soft. So just those two now, if I'm not mistaken. Shaggy Doo coming into the pits.
Let's see what he does here.
Seems like CBD's driver's trying to catch up as best he can on those mediums. Let's see if the difference in practice, brake balance, and racing lines will come to play in CBD driver's favor. Let's check on Stubbs in P3. With a about 6-second deficit behind CBD driver and a almost 3-second, 2 3/4 second-ish lead over Chief Apollo. That front right tire, as is tradition for this race, is donezo. Sitting at about under a quarter of a tank of gas. I think Stubbs is gonna... Yeah, at this rate, I wouldn't be surprised if Stubbs runs out the softs until the gas tank demands nourishment.
And that seems to be the play. Even though the grip's gone, they stay out there and let that gas tank get all the way down so they can minimize the number of pit stops they have to take.
Well, and that's exactly what Lakoboro is doing. He's back in 5th place, and his tire is completely shot, but he's running that gas as close as he can get it to empty to make value. Let's see, and he is going to go into the pits, so he's going to refill and probably do a splash and dash with the tire change. I guess it's not a splash and dash to get tires, huh?
It's a full service, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that's the all-in-one package. Now,
this is a lot of fun to watch. You don't always see this in motorsport, the order to change so much. I mean, everybody's kind of been all over the place. You've been up in the top 3, back in the back of the pack, and with all the different strategies going on, I'm really curious to see what the order is on that final lap, because I have no idea where it's going to be.
Oh yeah, it's still anybody's game, as we still have 7 laps left. And fastest lap currently belongs to Lakoboro with a 1:16.212.
Wow.
But, I mean, with the rate everybody's going, that could change. That could change in an instant. It could be a difference of a couple tenths to even a 1,000th of a second. That's one of the beauties about sim racing, is there's more action and more possibilities for different outcomes of a race than you would see in your normal real-life circuit racing, be it
Absolutely.
with GT World Challenge, World Endurance Championship, NASCAR, anything. The sim racing is definitely more action-packed than you would expect. Now, I do have a question for you, gentlemen. As we see the car get lighter due to fuel runoff, do you think that's benefiting the drivers in terms of tire wear because there's less weight riding on those tires as they go around these turns?
You know,
Well,
I mean, I think
yeah.
so, and I think that's why they're able to go two laps with no grip on that front right, because the car's so much lighter. They're able to still push it around, and also these being front-wheel drive cars makes a huge difference. You know, when you lose grip on your driving tire, when it's at the front, it's a lot easier to get around than when it's in the rear. When it's in the rear, you're going to start spinning a lot sooner, whereas with the front wheel drive car, you're just going to deal with a little more understeer, and you can adapt to that.
CBD driver sets as he approaches the line, sets a 642, about a second and a half off the personal best, but he is running on those mediums, and this also raises the question of, is CBD driver gonna stay on the mediums for the rest of the race, or get a bit of a lead and then jump back on the softs and try and have a strong finish? Oh, did CBD driver just get some air?
It sure looked like it.
Wow.
That was all right. CBD driver bunny hopping into the tunnel.
We've got MK Maskawala, who's made a pit stop. Trying to wait and see if he took tires or if he just did gas. He did. He's on his mediums.
Mediums, and looks like just hit the good enough level on gas and back into the race for Maskawala.
And I'm looking through these drivers, and it looks like everybody should be able to make it to the end without pitting. Shaggy might be pushing it, but it looks like Arrow's probably going to have to make one more pit stop as well.
So you think this might be the all or nothing moment for these racers?
Yeah, I think for most of them, I think they're going to do their best to get it to the end on what they've got.
The Chief Apollo is currently about 5 seconds behind CBD driver, but that can change, especially given the severity of turn 1. Got Salamander about 16 seconds behind Chief Apollo, given the fact that there is 4 laps left in this race, and 4 laps left in this race, and the fuel levels of at least Chief Apollo and the tire wear, I think Salamander might have a chance on taking P2 at the last second. I'm just getting word from production that we've received yet another donation from Titanium Ashes for $20 entitled "You Got This." On behalf of the entire Racing League, Titanium Ashes, thank you so much for your support.
Yeah, thank you very much. That is awesome.
Thanks, Titanium.
And speaking of support, if you know anybody that might be interested in watching a community league of sim racing, or may even want to partake in a league such as this, please send them the channel, have them join the Discord, get involved with the community. There's plenty of things going on at all times inside the McNaughty Racing Discord.
Yeah, the Discord is absolutely an awesome way to stay in touch with some of these folks and share some basic ideas and thoughts. The other thing is it's going to be a great place to kind of be in the know of when season 2 is going to come. So, that's something that we're definitely working on and talking about as a group. And, a lot of us are really looking forward to being able to do this again.
Oh, did we just see Shaggy power slide in the tunnel a little bit?
Oh, yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah, that was very well held. That could have gone sideways really quick.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, well, I mean, no pun intended,
That was a good one. Yeah, these front-wheel drive cars, you really do have to rotate them. And the Civics, really of all generations of Civics, have been known for being able to drift them even though they're front-wheel drive. So it's all about getting that car rotated, getting the back end around so your front wheels are pointing the right way and they can just tear it up and go.
Point. Seems like Stubbs had maybe a bit of a slide going on there into Shaggy's slipstream. Now, I'm still relatively new to, like, sim racing and understanding the car dynamics, but isn't it the front cars are also more prone to understeer than some of the other formats for car configuration?
You are 100% correct. It's all the weight is on top of those front wheels. The front wheels are the ones that are spinning, powered by the motor, and then you're trying to turn them, and they really just can't grip, and that's what causes the understeer. Basically, you turn your wheel left, but you keep going straight. And I actually have a funny story. I had a Honda Civic SI back in high school, and I thought I was cool and could drive real fast. And I learned what understeer was firsthand driving on a tight, twisty road, and I turned right, and my Civic kept going straight. And then I flew off and landed on a stone wall and totaled my Civic. I was okay, but that was a great lesson on what understeer is and how prone the Civic is to said understeer.
You know, I'll give you a fun fact. I don't know if you guys know this, but John Cena, his daily driver is a Honda Civic Type R.
That's that's awesome.
Yeah, I believe good old John Cena, or John Cena, as Santino Marella would call him, is the voice for Honda, actually.
That's awesome.
Now, I do want to bring your guys' attention to something that happened towards the beginning of this lap. We saw Stubbs McStubbin fly right past Shaggy Doo like he was standing still.
And I think that comes down to tire grip. Shaggy has a lot less grip than Stubbs. Still has some grip on his front right, and Shaggy has none left. And I think you see that lack of grip in those curves. You can grip a little tighter and get on the inside and make a move.
Without a doubt. And Mas Koala has a half-second penalty. This goes to show these races are no joke, especially coming into the last two laps where every place matters. Those penalties and those track limits are definitely going to be part of what gets you outside of how you manage turn one. I honestly am surprised we haven't seen too much gone awry in terms of turn one, actually.
Nowhere near what we expected. No, and as you look at CBD driver coming into his final lap here, you know, it's really nice to see the dark horse pulling through. Man, did he put in a lot of work for this week. He's got almost a 4-second lead going into the twisties here, and he's just cutting this course apart tonight.
Yeah, there's still tons of tire life left on those mediums, and it looks like just enough fuel to get him through this final lap. So P1, if everything goes smoothly, is definitely assured for CBD driver for the remainder of this race.
To that point, Apollo doesn't have anywhere near the traction or the gas. He's back there looking at the taillights, but I don't know that he's going to make that ground up.
I'm not sure myself, and Salamander's probably going to be sitting comfy rounding out the podium, especially because there's just a slightly over 10-second deficit between him and Chief Apollo, but Chief Apollo's gas tank is dangerously low. Do you think it'll be enough to carry him to the checkered flag?
I think he's going to make it. I want to point out we have a really exciting battle happening for P6 right now between MK and Lakoboro. Lakoboro went into the wall, and MK is hot on him for P6.
Did you guys just see how Chief Apollo crossed that finish line?
That was beautiful.
Just barely. Lakoboro's got a penalty.
He got the penalty, so it looks like MK's gonna. There he goes.
Yep.
And
a good move by Lakoboro. He took the outside to let him by. MK's got a half. How about that?
Well, with these track limits, this is a road, not a racetrack, and so literally the track limits are the road, which again in Gran Turismo we're not really used to. We're used to being on racetracks where you have curbs and stuff to run onto, and this is, you literally have to keep it on the road, and sometimes that's not the optimal line.
Oh yeah, where you have a little bit of wiggle room with being able to ride the curb just a little bit, kind of ride that knife's edge and push your luck in terms of the track limits themselves. Now, I should also throw out the penalties that befell MK and Lakoboro. If I remember correctly, it rounds it up to the nearest second after you cross the start line?
I believe so, and I think we'll see that once this final letterboard pops up. But I believe you are correct in that.
What a race. What
Oh,
an awesome race.
What a race. Everybody in chat, to all of those that are watching live or wind up watching the replay later, let's just give an outpour of support for our drivers after this amazing first race of the semifinals of the McNaughty Racing League.
And
Now,
bravo to CBD.
Oh, absolutely. Very well done, CBD driver. Let's take a look at the classified results. We have CBD driver in first, of course, with a total race time of 40 minutes, 26 seconds, 0.89, not relevant. Now, coming in second place, just under 4 seconds behind, is Chief Apollo 11. And in behind Chief Apollo 11, rounding out our podium, is Salamander. Taking P4 is Stubbs McStubbins. P5, rounding out the top 5, is GSR Shaggy Doo. And then both with penalties in 6th and 7th are MK and Lakoboro, respectively. And then rounding out our race is Arrow with a 1 minute deficit, but hey, that's okay. You raced an amazing race, and it was very great. It was honestly an honor and a privilege to be able to call your races. Now,
I couldn't agree with that more.
Oh, yeah. Now, if you will bear with us for just a moment while we get the results cataloged and everything, we will be taking a break, and we will come back to you all with Split 2 of the semifinals of this racing league. Please stay tuned.
Okay.
To the semifinals of the Naughty Racing League. I'm Toon, and still with me are TCase and SlowMoe. Gentlemen, what'd you guys think of race 1?
Oh, that was fantastic. I was not expecting that close of racing for a race that was that long. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, to your point, and we were kind of talking about it during the break. I expected it to space out a little differently, like you had mentioned, TCase, and that was really good, tight racing, really competitive all the way through. And man, what a good race!
Yeah, that was definitely one you did not want to miss. And if that sets the precedent for a race, I think it's going to be very action-packed for the rest of the night. Now, let's take a look at the current elimination splits. So we've already gone through split 1. Now moving on to split 2, we have Hako1337, GLK Sneaky, and taking P3 at this current moment is Sophia. Then we have Speed Racer, Papa's House of Games, PHG Papa, Art Vandalay, Corridor 71, Jimmy K9, Fernando Button, and AngryFredbird. I think we're definitely in for another memorable race. Moving on over to the current driver splits, I believe. Yep, here's the current standings so far. So at P1 right now, at this current moment, this is obviously subject to change, we have Chief Apollo 11 with 60 points, Salamander MN with 57, Lakoboro 809 with 54, GSR Shaggy Doo with 54 as well, and rounding out our tie for P3 with CBD Driver with 54 points. Taking P6 is Stubbs McSeven. With P7 we have Mass Koala. In P8 we have Arrow, and in P9, the current no time set, we've got Hako. So everybody down below is no time set, and we will see what they look like after this current race. SlowMoe, would you like to explain or remind the viewers how the points work and how the podiums definitely benefit those that are, of course, in a lower standing at the moment?
Yeah, you bet, absolutely. Keep in mind that as these guys finish within their split, they're getting points for their first, second, and third place finishes in each split, in addition to the cumulative points that they're getting for where their total race time finishes in comparison to all the other racers. So, again, this week points are doubled. So, as that really can add up quick, and we saw a great example of it in the first race. CBD Driver getting a podium, he's going to the finals. Doesn't matter what his points were, right? So anybody that gets a podium finish cannot be eliminated. They get an automatic move into the finals. Really, this next race is going to be super exciting. We are going to see some really incredible driving. So these points are, as we were going through the points totals there, it is anybody's game. So I think you're seeing people, all the way down to 9th or 10th that are probably technically on the bubble, and it could go either way for some of those guys.
Absolutely. I'm getting word from production that we've got yet another donation. We are getting a lot of support, and it's absolutely amazing. We got $20 from Gadget Guy TX. The matchup, Go Naughty League Hako versus Sophia. I can honestly share that sentiment. Hako versus Sophia is going to be a very, very close battle, probably for the entirety of the race. And on behalf of the Naughty Racing League, thank you for your support. And I was also made aware that we had a donation during our intermission. So a massive thank you to Corridor 71 for the 50 MX. I believe that's pesos, if my understanding of international currency is correct. But regardless, thank you both so much for your support. It means a lot to all of us. Now, I would like to reiterate that all of the money that you have seen be donated through Super Chat goes directly into the league itself and benefits the drivers and everybody else that helps make this production what it is. Everybody is getting everybody is getting their fair share, and we all greatly appreciate your support. I also see that CBD Driver sent $1.99. Thank you very much, CBD Driver. It's always interesting to see the competitors chipping in as well. You never see that in other leagues, be it professional motorsport or any sort of professional sport. It's touching to see, really. And this one says, "Don't sleep on Sneaky." I would be remiss if anybody did. Sneaky and many of the other drivers, especially those that have been getting the extra assistance from Hako, who, by the way, does offer coaching services. You can find more information about that in his Discord, on his YouTube, and on his Twitch channel. And these are just flying in, folks. My lord. Rowdy with $20, having a blast. Can't wait for race 2. Go Papa's House of Games. Looks like Papa's got a nice little audience supporting him for this race. I hope he does
Toon.
well along with all the other drivers.
Toon and Papa House of Games, his fan base, they call themselves the Paparazzi. So that is a donation from a fellow paparazzi right there.
Oh. Well, we've all learned something new here, folks. As we see Hako doing what he did last week and burning the fuel. Hako's got just insane track IQ and racing acumen. Some might see what Hako and Sneaky are doing as weird, but there is definitely a method to this madness. As you also see, Sneaky is driving around in the Hako Racing Academy livery that, well, Hako himself is driving.
Indeed, and I talked to Sneaky yesterday, actually, and he said he's been working a lot with Hako, as well as, taking in as much as he can from Hako to give himself a good opportunity. And he told me his goal is P2. He isn't quite confident that he can beat Hako, but his goal is to come in second just behind him. So we'll see if all that practice and training has paid off.
Well, we've talked about this split is loaded. I mean, between Twitch, Sneaky, Sophie, there is plenty of competition in this lobby here. So make no mistake that we are going to see battles for those positions.
Oh, yeah. And we should also throw out the, one of the elephants in the room, really. As you can see, Hako and Sneaky as well are currently way down in the rankings on the side, but that is also because they're probably going to spend a little bit of time trying to shave off as much fuel as they can without compromising their tire wear. We've got Sophia and Fernando in the pits already, but wonder what they're thinking. Maybe a quick change of tire compounds, maybe resetting for a better lap. Who knows? We've got Art coming through, about to set the first hot lap of the qualifying session. And I don't know, guys. What are your expectations going into this race?
Boy, I tell you what, I think you're going to see, I think it's going to be a Hako, Sneaky, Sophia battle for 1, 2, 3. I'm really not sure who's going to be up there battling with him for fourth. Maybe Jimmy. I think it's anybody's game. But boy, the back of the pack is really where the money is going to be made here, and those are going to be the folks who decide who is going into the finals and who isn't.
Without a doubt. And seems I'm getting word from production. Dave's not here. Just sent a generous donation of $10. Rooting for Papa. Have a great race, all. See, this is just amazing to see the outpour of support for their, for maybe their favorite streamers, their fellow drivers, for the league itself. Everybody just wants to see this league grow and turn into something that's a real force to be reckoned with in terms of Gran Turismo communities. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm so glad and privileged to be a part of it.
Absolutely. It's really incredible. And obviously not everybody can give give money. We're not asking everybody to give money, but everybody can click that like button. Everybody can click the subscribe button. Do that. Go find your favorite drivers, find their YouTube or Twitch channel, give them a sub as well. Those can go a long way. So we really appreciate all the support from everyone.
Oh yeah, you can show your support in multiple ways. You don't have to send your money, especially if you don't feel like it. Nobody's gonna hold it against you, especially if you're not able. Everybody's situation's different. If you can just like the stream, send it to some friends, just spread the word about it to anybody that might be interested, and that goes miles further than you think it does. We've got Hako with a 2.5 penalty. That's unexpected from him. We got
Sneaky with the fastest lap now with a 1:16.1. So that's up there with some of those top times from the last race.
Oh yeah, I think that lap itself is faster than the fastest lap in race 1. Do you think Hako's gonna just sit by and let that happen?
Oh no way. He wants to start on pole. He wants to run away with this. This is his race to lose. I think everybody kind of views it that way, as he's the favorite, and he doesn't need to make it harder on himself, especially since he's been helping others.
Sophia.
Ooh,
Sophia taking a nasty multiple set of hits.
That's some damage right there.
Oh yeah, especially as we're just past the halfway mark into this qualifying session. That is really unfortunate.
Yeah, I talked to Sophia before the race, and I don't think that necessarily she got as much practice in this week as she would have really liked to, but she feels pretty comfortable. She's going to be able to keep herself competitive and really get through the race. But
Jimmy's hit the wall himself.
Well, watch out. Like we talked about in the first race, there's a lot of things that can happen in that turn 1, and I really think you're going to see that play out here between the folks that are in the middle and in the back of the pack. This is going to be a really fun to watch split. I would predict that you're going to see a couple different groups here, and you're going to see the front runners kind of split away from the middle and the back of the pack, and similar to what we had last split, it's going to jam these guys up on track as they do different pits and kind of get themselves through different times.
And that'll make for those exciting pit exits when you got 3 drivers on one strategy barreling down that pit straight, and then 2 drivers coming out on fresh tires right in front of them going into turn 1. Makes for some exciting racing.
Oh, absolutely. Now here's an interesting thing I want to ask you guys. So this split has what was the top 3 drivers in terms of point standings. How do you think that's affected the rest of the field in terms of like psychologically and everything? Do you think it's going to cause them to work harder? Do you think they might feel a little intimidated? Do you think that there might be, some people trying riskier strategies to try and keep up?
All of the above. I mean, I know a lot of these drivers have been putting in a lot of work knowing what they're up against, knowing what split they're in, knowing, if I can get on a podium, I'm safe. Well, then you look at who's in the split, and you've got to ask yourself, how on earth am I going to get onto that podium? It's a real challenge. I know if I was in this, that's what I'd be asking. I need to get P3. How can I get P3? What is that going to be? And they do have the advantage of being able to watch that last race and kind of see, how is the fuel playing out? How is the tire wear playing out? Because that all, if you can minimize your number of pit stops, you have a chance of leapfrogging several drivers.
Yeah, to that point, I think you're kind of looking at what you're going to see here, and you've got Sneaky, Hako, Corridors currently got the 3rd best time, and then here's where I really think the group that you're going to be wanting to watch is Art, PHG, Papa, Fredbird, Jimmy, Buttons. I think he had a penalty, so he's running a little bit of a slower lap still, but they've got another minute and a half to get through qualifying. So, obviously the final grid isn't set just yet.
Oh no, of course not. We do have 60 seconds left in this qualifying, but there is also that 2-minute buffer for people to finish their laps. That way they can at least have one final shot. So I think everybody should try their hardest to at least get across the start-finish line within the next 40 seconds to try and have
And we
one more
just got
opportunity.
into the 115s. I don't know
Oh
if you guys
my.
saw that. Twitch Hako, a 115.742. Oh my goodness, that is incredibly fast. So to answer that question, do you think he's going to come back and take pole? Absolutely.
Oh, as we have Fernando with a 1.5 second penalty spinning out into the wall. The undulations of that tunnel is very deceptive. If you take the wrong braking line, things like that can happen. I hope Fernando will be able to bounce back from that, though. As we've got Sophia coming onto the start-finish straight.
And she has yet to get this turn one down. I've been watching her. Oh, and she's been in the wall almost every single time. So let's see if she can get this one and put in a clean lap before quali's over.
I'm sure that Sophia's going to be able to bounce back from this. If her race in the quarterfinals last week was any indication of that, she's going to bounce back, and she'll definitely be out for blood, especially when it comes to Hako. But a 1:15.742, that is a mind-boggling time. I don't know, for a few minutes I was sitting there thinking GLK Sneaky pulled a whole student surpasses the master kind of situation. But Hako is definitely not going to take that line down and is reminding everybody just exactly who he is.
Aliens are purple, and boy, does that Hako livery look good on those cars between him and Sneaky that are running. For those of you guys who don't know, he does run the Racing Academy, and honestly, he's been helping drivers prepare for this week quite a bit. I think he worked with CVD driver a little bit. So, Hako is just a great community guy, and really, he likes to beat people at their best. He wants you to be a good competitor, and so he's been really, really awesome for some of these folks through the practice lobbies.
Oh, absolutely. And Hako is definitely not afraid to let you know when you're messing up and tell you point blank what you're doing wrong and how to correct it. Like, he's definitely got the experience and the resume to back all of this up. So if anybody's interested in joining the Hako Racing Academy, I highly suggest it, because even just from little pointers I've seen during the streams McNaughty runs during the week, some of those little tips that he's thrown out, I've applied them myself, and I had to stop for a second and think, why haven't I done this? So yeah, Hako Racing Academy, you can find Hako on YouTube and on Twitch, and then you can also join his Discord server as well.
And look at Team Canada 1-2.
Yep, Team Canada 1-2. Never thought I'd see the day. Now let's take a look at the classified results for qualifying, shall we? So in P1, to nobody's surprise, we have Hako, and coming in just 0.3, almost 0.4 of a second behind him is Sneaky. Coming in and rounding out our podium is Corridor with about a 1.5 second deficit behind Hako himself. Then coming down in 4th and 5th, rounding out our top 5, we have Art Vandalay and PHG, Papa's House of Games. And then in P6, 7, and 8, we have AngryFredbird, Jimmy K9, and Fernando Button. Now taking a look over at positions 9 and 10, we have Sophia way down uncharacteristically at the bottom, but that might come to work in her favor. And rounding out our lobby, we have Speed Racer, who has gone the sandbagging route. This is going to be a very interesting race, and honestly, I think starting from the back, especially in a split like this, is going to come in handy and maybe benefit the drivers in the back of the pack, depending on how they go about entering turn 1 and managing the braking zones in the tunnel.
Yeah, TCase, do you expect to see, Sophie working up through the field, or do you think that, you're going to see kind of some groupings come through here? What's your thought?
I wasn't expecting this at all. I was expecting Sophia to be up there in the top three. So to think of her having to come through all the way in the back, I know it's possible, especially with turn one. It can be kind of crazy. So I think we're just going to have to wait and see what tire they start on. Are they going to be on the mediums? Are they going to be on the softs? And how cleanly can they get through? Because it doesn't do you any good if you get all the way up there and you're all banged up and you're going to have to pit anyway. So I really don't know. I'd love to make a prediction, but we're just going to have to wait and see it for ourselves.
Oh yeah, this is going to be anybody's game, and if race one is the quarterfinals, my apologies, last week is any indicator, we might see Sophia go on the mediums and then run the rest on softs, because Sophia had an alternative strategy to most everybody else.
And here we go.
We did actually have a false start. You guys got to be careful with that throttle foot. We've got a lovely train of cars coming in through turn one. Let's see how it pans out. Hako taking a defensive line, and we've got Fernando spun out and in the wall.
Oh,
Speed Racer just looks like Speed Racer was able to get through unscathed, but that is unfortunate. Throughout the week over in... Oh, I'm sorry.
SlowMoe, to answer that, we got Sophia up in P4 and Papa up in P3. So there you go, right there in turn one. Made some moves and made a lot of positions. Now they're not far off the leader at all.
Yeah, that was definitely using the situation to your advantage. We've got Sneaky with a 2-second penalty. Might be for track limits. That's definitely not something you want to see, but luckily it happened on lap 1 and not lap 30 itself. Now let's take a look and see how the current spacing looks. We've got about a 1.5 lead over Papa's House Game for Sneaky, and about a half-second deficit behind Hako, but thanks to that unfortunate 2-second penalty, that gap to Hako is going to get a lot larger pretty quick.
And did we lose Fernando? Am I missing something?
I am getting word from production that we did have another technical issue. Fernando Button, unfortunately, has experienced a technical issue and is no longer a part of this race. That is devastating to see.
And we got Corridor's already made a pit stop, so he started on the mediums. I'm assuming he's going to come out of there on softs, and he does.
He is, and Jimmy K9 just spun into the wall at turn one as well, so that's what puts Jimmy K9 as far back as he is.
Look at all that damage.
Now that is I'm starting to I'm just getting word that it was due to a hardware malfunction. That is unfortunate.
That's what happened to Fernando. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hardware malfunction, and that's nobody's fault. I hope that doesn't spoil your enjoyment for the GT series, or really the league itself. We hope that you're able to get these issues rectified soon. And
Sophie in the wall, yeah.
Oh, Sophie in the wall.
PHG just spun. Oh wow, they're all having issues right there at turn one. PHG spun. Sophia went into the wall. Sneaky still staying hot on Hako's tail.
There's definitely a lot more carnage happening in this split. I hope the field is able to kind of space itself out and everybody can regain their bearings fairly soon. Well, otherwise, Sneaky and Hako are going to be a pipe dream to catch up to.
Yeah, 2 and 3 laps in, and they're on fire. So they're making space. 5-second gap between Sneaky and Vandalay already.
And with how Sneaky's doing and how well he's keeping up to Hako, if you needed more proof on Hako's coaching abilities, Sneaky's living proof, as well as CBD driver in the last race. But Sneaky did catch a half-second penalty, which will give Art Vandalay at least a little bit more of an opportunity to try and catch up and take P2. I feel like as the race settles down, depending on where Sneaky and Hako end up, this is going to be a battle to round out the podium and save yourself from elimination.
Absolutely. And when I was talking to Sneaky, I had asked him, I asked him if he, have you just been practicing qualifying? Have you been practicing race pace? And he said he mostly has just been practicing qualifying. So I have a feeling that's similar to all these drivers. They were more focused on getting those fast laps in. And as we know, that's completely different from race pace. You're not trying to be on the limit the whole time on the race pace because you got to conserve your tire wear and your fuel consumption. So we'll see how many of these drivers that's going to hurt and who did end up working on some of that race pace.
Oh yeah, that's actually a very good point, because qualifying is a completely different beast than the race itself, because the race, it benefits more from consistency as opposed to qualifying where you're just looking for that one and done good lap. See Jimmy K9 hugging the inside on that turn, but knocking about over half second off his personal best lap. And we've got, oh, that's interesting. So we've got the current fastest lap still set by Hako, but it's a 1:17.030. And Jimmy is doing his absolute best to manage with the front and rear damage and is opting to not go into the pits quite yet. I wonder if Jimmy's going to just ride it out, or if he's just trying to push it as far as he can.
Well, I think we saw in the first race, I think all the drivers kind of decided, you know what, you can get through on the damage. It's better to minimize your pit stops and wait till you absolutely have to. And absolutely have to doesn't mean your tires ran out. It means you're out of fuel, as we saw Lakoboro do in last race and take it all the way to empty. So it's more about stay out, burn up all that fuel, come in, do your tire change, and get back out regardless of the damage or the tire wear.
Yeah, and to that point, I was a little surprised to see Corridor come off the medium so early. Mm-hmm. To take that extra pit stop, didn't need fuel necessarily. That may really come back to bite him. I guess we'll see how it plays out, because you've got a couple other folks that started. Well, I guess just one. Him and Fredbird were the only two I saw that started mediums.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yeah, that's right.
Now, since Corridor did pit at the end of lap 1 and jump onto the softs, does that mean Corridor might wind up having an extra stop or two for fuel, or do you think that Corridor is going to be able to run the race at like a standard amount of pit stops?
That's a really good question. We do know that he's taking care of those medium tires, so now all he has to use is the softs. And I don't know if he topped off a lap of fuel on that pit stop, or if he just did a tire change, but it'll be hard to say whether or not he's going to have to do an extra one for fuel. But at least we do know, he doesn't have to put on any more mediums. He can do the rest of the race on softs.
Yeah.
Right, and if you took a look, Corridor went through the tunnel and turn 1 masterfully. I think if Corridor keeps that up, the places are just going to start flying in his favor. Now, production has thrown a question our way about if the three of us will be allowed to race. If you're talking about in future seasons, I believe all of us have decided that we're quite happy here in the commentary booth. But who knows if that'll be the case when it's time for season 2 to get underway.
I was really on the fence because I love racing. I love Gran Turismo, and doing a fun league like the Naughty League, where you're not just in GT cars at the same tracks over and over again, which is what we get in the dailies. And as much fun as that is, it's nice to be out here and watching these guys drive around in Honda Civics at Grand Valley in reverse. Like, you don't get that regularly. So that was really tempting to me as a driver to want to participate in. But honestly, I've been having so much fun with Toon and SlowMoe. I decided, you know what? I'll find other leagues I could participate in. I want to continue my spot here as a co-host with you guys.
Yeah, and I'm actually right there with both of you guys. I don't belong in this group of drivers, although I could certainly stay out of their way and do it politely. But just the work that these guys put in preparation for these races, man, it is something to be commendable. And it shows. If these guys put in the work and they come out here and they are just being really good competitors with each other, very competitive splits. As we see, our, as you like to say, Toon, Art Vandalay coming around the turns there, doing everything he can to catch up with Sneaky.
Oh, yeah. I'm getting word from production that we've got yet another super chat from CBD Driver. Commentators giving us a chance because they quick. You give us a bit more credit than we deserve, but thank you.
Yes, thank you, CBD Driver.
Yeah, that's very nice, and still not accurate for me. But hey, you know what? When I get into dailies, you can tell me different.
And speaking of the dailies, I do love the fact that we get to see our drivers doing more unorthodox in the eyes of PD races, where you see a race like this, and it would be maybe a third of the length. And it might be a race A where, there's no benefit or consequence. Mm-hmm. It'd be more deemed as a meme race. And I'm honestly happy that we get to see drivers in car and track combinations with different things such as weather, severe damage, and things of that nature, where you normally wouldn't see them just playing sport mode. I believe we should all give it up to McNaughty for being a genius when it comes to these races, because it's giving us fresh races, fresh ideas, and just things you wouldn't expect out of Gran Turismo 7.
Absolutely. It's so true. And like we know, for those who do the dailies, race A is bumper cars. Even if it's a combo you like, you rarely get to have fun with it because everybody's just plowing through. And so you get to see these races where people, care and are trying to race clean. It's really refreshing, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, to your point, kudos to McNaughty for really being creative with it. Not only that, but letting the guys run on some soft tires. How often does that happen? But no, he's worked really hard to try and come up with some fun stuff, and it's really just it's cool to watch these guys in the street car out here in California. Like I mentioned last week, it's like the tuner's paradise. This track is so much fun. It's not easy, so there's look at all the strategy that has to go in this, whether it's fuel saving, whether it's tire management, whether it's keeping your car out of the wall. Have you guys ever ran any type of daily race that had heavy damage?
Right.
We got Sneaky and Vandalay in the pits.
We do. I was just looking at that SlowMoe, and it's amazing. Hako has managed to have an extra lap of fuel than Sneaky. And they were, riding right next to each other, yet Sneaky had to come in because he was completely out of fuel, and Hako still got a little bit left, but I expect to see him dive in the pits as he comes around.
And now we got Corridor back in the pit.
Oh.
So they must not have topped off fuel when they did that first pit stop. And
maybe not. Looks like Hako's flashing his lights as he's going into the pits. Did Hako manage to get about extra lap or half a lap out of his fuel and tires as opposed to his protege in Sneaky?
Yeah, no, he got a full lap, exactly one lap more fuel out of his race, and maybe that has to do with being in clean air versus following, because Sneaky never let him get too far ahead, so Sneaky was in the dirty air and got a little bit more fuel wear. And also, when you're following somebody, you're pushing. You're pushing that much harder because you're looking for those opportunities, and you burn a little bit more fuel. Whereas when you're leading, you can do a little more lift and coast because you're not trying to get ahead of anybody.
Yeah,
And look
it
at how
definitely-
close Sneaky's pushing his fuel, or Speed Racer's pushing the fuel there.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
wow.
Speed Racer's probably trying to get as much of a gap as he can from Hako, or at least from the rest of the field, to try and secure at least a sort of free pit, as we've got Papa's House of Games and AngryFredbird both in the pits.
And Hako took softs on his pit stop, so he's soft still.
I've come to just accept the fact that I'm not going to question Hako's methods or the strategies, because especially with how he goes about coaching, and as it's been exhibited by his fellow racers that have gone to him for tutelage, there's a method to the madness, and the method works. And
Guys, we have a really great battle happening for P3 between Sneaky and Art here. They're battling bumper to nose.
oh my, they are really close. You've got Art Vandalay just a little over a quarter of a second, now about half a second behind Sneaky. I think Art's going to be applying a lot of pressure to Art's going to be applying a lot of pressure to Sneaky to try and maybe pounce on an error, or even just stay as close as he can to try and catch up to Hako. It really all depends, but Sneaky's going to be riding clean air as Sneaky drifts it, and Art runs a little too wide into the wall.
He tried to be late on the brakes to take the inside and ended up losing it. Wow. Oh, wow. He did so much work to get so close, and now we've got, at least it's rear end damage instead of the front right, which we saw a lot of in the last race, was that front right damage. So we'll see how this right rear damage affects him, but he doesn't seem to be going very quickly.
But it's a good thing that Art was able to minimize the damage that was sustained only to the rear end, because then that shouldn't affect the handling too much, because it is a front wheel, front engine car.
And this is allowing Sophia to catch up to Art. So Sophia's now looking at trying to snag a podium here.
It is a possibility, but we are only like 12 laps into the race. We're not even at the halfway mark, so there's still plenty of opportunities for drivers to make up positions or give up positions, really.
Absolutely. A lot more pit stops to happen. That's for sure.
It's anybody's race. And you really got to give it to the drivers, especially those that were able to practice, were afforded the opportunity to practice in exorbitant amount of time. But like, special mention should be made to those that were able to get some practice in only when they had the opportunity, because they're making the most out of the time that they had. As we've got Papa running just a teensy bit wide, but saving it from disaster.
Ooh.
We've got some foam I don't even know what those things are called. Either way, they're on the road.
They are in the way, and they
road,
should
too.
not be there.
Yeah, we've got cones out there too. I think PD needs to install a track cleanup crew.
We've got a pretty good battle going on between Fredbird and Corridor right now, and when you want to talk about the bubble, this is where it's going to be had between Speed Racer and Fredbird, and everybody in between. Those are the guys that are really going to have to work hard, and every spot makes so much of a difference. And correct me if I'm wrong. If a driver is lapped, to add the additional lap is going to be a 2-minute lap, right?
I believe that is what was discussed. So yeah, I believe that is the case. So I think for those that are in the back of the pack and running the risk of being a back marker, places go out the window. Just make sure you're not lapped. Just do the best you can. That's all really any of the drivers can do, especially seeing as how it's not only anyone's race, but just landing P3 is going to be a guarantee at the finals, regardless of your points.
Well, and if you look at it, on average, some of these guys are running 1:18s, 1:19s in race. Fredbird, for example, is a minute back from Hako, so Hako's really only about 19 seconds from lapping him at this point, and that could be a substantial difference when it comes down to that total point.
Yeah, Hako's coming up to turn 1 right now, and Freebird is just getting out of the chicane after it, so he is right on his back, and then right in front of Fredbird is Corridor, so it could be just a matter of laps before anything happens, unless we look at the pits, but it doesn't look like Hako's going to need to pit anytime soon either.
No. I don't think Fredbird or Corridor's right front's getting a little bit weak. He's half tank, but I don't see him jumping in right away. And then you got Papa, who's almost 12 seconds ahead of Corridor, fighting for that 5th, 6th spot. Speed Racer and Sophia have a pretty good battle going on right through turn 1 into the Kirby section as well.
And from watching this, it really seems like turn 1 is the make it or break it point. if you watch Hako and Sneaky go through there, they go through very smooth. There's no sliding out wide, and then you look at the rest of them, and they'll get a smooth one every now and again, but most of the time there's a big drift in there, and they're definitely losing time and getting a lot of tire wear. Wow, this is close driving with low fuel happening right here, huh?
Oh yeah, I feel that there's a chance that these two might get a little bit of tunnel vision and kind of blow through the rest of their fuel. They've got to be very careful, especially looking at how low Sophia's is. But Speed Racer's actually fine. Okay.
Yeah, Speed Racer's good on fuel, so Sophia will probably... They're really not racing each other, even though it seems like they are. They're on 2 separate pit strategies here, and we'll see where they all come out at the end of the race. There we go. Sophia's... Oh, she ran out of fuel. She's got the hazards on and is trying to get back to the pits.
Luckily, Gran Turismo 7 does just let you drive without fuel, but you are limited to about 50 to 55 miles an hour, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
But since Sophia did get back to the pit safely, I think it's time to swap onto those softs, fill up, and send it. Because we are just over the halfway point in this race. It's still anybody's race, but I feel like the drivers might be feeling that door closing just a little bit. Got Corridor coming through turn 1 very smoothly. Seems the track is a little bit clear thanks to Sophia inadvertently playing cleanup crew. Now, we know Corridor went and pitted lap 1. And there's a little bit of a drift there. So Corridor obviously knows what he's doing. And you can also tell by the way Corridor goes into turn 1, he's letting the car roll and taking a smooth entry and exit through turn 1, as opposed to the aforementioned drifting earlier. I would like to kind of circle back to that. Obviously, like, drifting your car and holding it, awesome. It's an awesome feeling. Especially
it sure looks cool.
Yeah, it definitely wins the style awards. But, like, not only are you losing time, but if you don't catch that car enough, you're going to sustain some pretty impeding damage. So, I don't know, if you were one of the competitors in this race and you noticed you were kind of having an initial D moment when you're going through some of these turns, do you think you would like adjust your brake points, or do you think it's one of those if it ain't broke don't fix it kind of moments?
Right, and I think it's up to the driver on that one, because some, like we were talking about with strategy, some are going to adapt. They're going to change what they're doing to suit what's happening, and others are going to keep doing what they do because that's what works for them. And I think if you're losing time, you stop. You stop doing that and you change your driving style. But like you said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. If you're not losing time, if you're doing well, then you keep going. And you mentioned Initial D, great mention there, because that's exactly what he does. Is for him, the drifting works, but in other cars, the drifting doesn't work, and you need to take a more race line approach. And so it really depends on the driver and what's working. It's about being smooth. So if you can drift it smoothly, then you keep doing it. But if you're drifting it and it's jerky and chaotic and you're tearing up your tires and losing time, you need to change what you're doing.
Yeah. Going back to strategy, let's start with you, SlowMoe. If you were a competitor in this race, how would you have gone into this race in terms of strategy?
Personally, and it's similar to the approach I would have taken the previous week. So I probably would have started on the mediums, tried to keep up with the pack and run those as long as I could. And that way, actually, the more I think about it, that's probably opposite. I normally like to start on the softs, but I think for this particular race, if you start on the mediums and you can stretch that out for a little bit, and then really manage your fuel wear and your tire wear through the softs, the less pit stops, the better, and you can see it playing out here where you've got Corridor, who's made 3 pit stops. He's a minute 40 off the lead. That's a long way off where you got somebody like Fredbird who's in 5th place. He's made, I guess, 1 pit stop, and he's a minute 15 back. So, those 2 extra pit stops are what the difference is between Corridor and Fredbird, my impression.
And speaking of Fredbird, right behind Fredbird, of course, is Art Vandalay, man with the most fun name to say. He's about to get lapped by Hako.
How about that?
That means Hako's already lapped everybody from Sophia down.
Yeah.
And it seems, looks like Art was able to get out of Hako's way as to not impede his race anymore. Hako was taking absolutely no prisoners.
Wow.
I knew he was going to be fast, but I did not expect this.
And not only is he fast, he is clearly the fastest driver out there, but he's making his tires and fuel last a lap longer compared to everybody else. And that's allowed him to build a huge 45-second gap to Sneaky, who was on his tail for the most part, but because Sneaky's had to pit earlier than Hako, it's costing him time.
Yeah, but I believe Hako is going to be going into the pits. Yep. He just ran out of fuel, so that means everybody that was passed by Hako now has the opportunity to try and gain more of a lead to prevent that from happening once again.
Like we were talking about earlier, you don't want to be a lap traffic, because that 2-second lap could really make a big difference in the standings.
It's really going to come down to the end once again, and if Hako's able to basically do 1 less pit stop than everybody else, all the people who have unlapped themselves are most likely going to have to pit one more time before the end of this race. So it's going to be interesting to see what the final order is again. I mean, I'm pretty sure we can all confidently say we're going to have Hako up there, but the rest of it is wide open.
Do my eyes deceive me, or did Art Vandalay just get some insane hang time?
Yet again, we're seeing air in these little Honda Civics. These hot hatches like to get a little air underneath them.
They're getting after it, right? I mean, look at Art and PhD fighting there. We're watching from Sneaky's perspective, so 3, 4, 5. They're looking to be a little contact there.
And Papa goes in.
We have seen some extremely unexpected events unfold in this entire round of elimination. We've seen racers start from further back in the pack and come up and win it. We've seen cars get lapped, and the most mind-boggling one is cars getting airborne.
Yeah, we did not expect to see that.
Now, in other games like iRacing, ACC, R Factor 2, things like that, cars can get some air if there's contact and everything. I have never once in my year of playing Gran Turismo 7 ever see a car get hang time during a race.
There are a few tracks in Gran Turismo where if you hit the line just right, and it is the optimal line, it's just really hard to control. You can get a little air just depending on the track and the camber of the corner.
And what a battle we're watching here between Sneaky and Art. I think Sneaky was flashing him, hoping he'd give up the position. And, I was going to ask you guys, I mean, in this situation, 3-4, 2-3 at this point, now that they passed the pits, I understand that he might be a little bit faster, but I'm not necessarily going to totally give the position up. I'm going to make you
Oh,
own it,
no.
although he's about to right here. There you go.
No,
Oh, no.
that is Art's position for Sneaky to take away. That is 100% Art's job to defend. He doesn't have to get out of his way at all. And Sneaky did what he needed to do and poked his nose in on the inside. Art left it open, and he was able to get through.
Yeah, especially because this is a one-make race. Now, if it were like over in the daily races and we had a race long enough to warrant lap traffic, then I'd understand, because there's different cars, they have different straight line speeds and what have you. But in a one-make race, if you're gaining on somebody, I don't see a real reason to give up unless they are right on your tail. And then, I mean, if they're like completely up on your bumper, then I understand giving up the position. But in the scenario of Art and Sneaky, that was definitely Sneaky's position he had to come and take for himself.
Absolutely, and as long as the two drivers are racing and they're on the same lap in that same strategy like that, like even if they're on their bumper, it's the person's behind job to get in front. The person in front has no obligation to move. Now they can't go and intentionally block, but they can hold their racing line. It's their line until it's taken away from them.
Without a doubt.
It looks like we're watching Fredbird. Yeah, look at him. He's doing everything he can to just keep up with Papa. I know I talked to him a little bit before the race too, and he obviously wants to get into those finals. He knows what kind of competition he's up against Hawko and Sneaky and some of those folks. And Fred's key was to run clean. So you'll notice that he is really being cautious, trying to put in his consistent laps. He is very consistent.
Have a yellow flag on the field.
Might not be the quickest guy out there,
but Papa's in the wall.
Oh, there's Papa.
That was really close.
And there's marshmallows all over the track. It's just chaos right there at turn one.
Oh yeah, marshmallows is actually a really good term for those. Let's see if Papa's able to bounce back from that unfortunate turn one incident.
Yeah, when you get an incident like that this late in the race, it's a real struggle, not only because of distance, but mentally. Those type of things take a toll on you, and it's really hard when you have one off like that to get your head back in the game and see the end of the race.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I've had races ruined by my own doing, and it was definitely demoralizing.
Corridor with another pit stop, so that's going to be 4 pits for him.
Wow.
I think, with 7 laps to go, that's really going to be the difference maker here. Let's see where he comes out in comparison to Fredbird and Papa.
Now, do you think that'll be Corridor's last pit stop of the race now?
It's gonna have to be if they want to finish not last, really. I think they'll be able to make it these next, 7 laps left?
Yeah,
6 laps left. They'll be able to make it on the fuel and the softs. They probably won't have any grip left, and maybe a lap or 2 of fuel left. But that's going to need to be their last pit stop if they don't want to be in the back.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're looking at maybe one more stop for Sneaky. Art. I can't quite tell you if Sophia's going to need another stop or not. And that might be about it. I guess we'll see. Papa's got he's got a lot of damage front end, so you never know. He might sneak in a stop. That'll be a wild card too.
Yeah. So SlowMoe, you've been keeping track of the pit stops, of course. Is there anybody outside of Hawko that hasn't jumped on the mediums at this point in the race?
Let me take a look here. I think we've seen medium compounds from pretty much everybody in this race, just going through. Yeah, everybody's ran medium. So all the tire compound requirements have been met. I would anticipate you're going to see nothing but soft from here on out.
And
Okay,
it's
so-
looking like based on fuel, everybody should be okay except for Art. I don't think that Art has enough fuel to get through without stopping again. So I think we're going to see them come in the pits here in the next lap or two.
And Art just took a 1 second penalty. I don't know if it was a track limit, but he's got rear end damage too. So to your point, I would imagine, yep, and here he comes. He's coming in the pit.
I also noticed when we were watching Sophia, she's already at about 1.5 minutes behind Hako. So I think the only lap traffic that Hako hasn't ran into would be Art up to Sneaky.
Yeah, Art, Speed Racer, and Sneaky. Sneaky's 48 seconds behind. Speed Racer's right at 1 minute. So Hako's just running his own race.
And with the lap traffic time added at the end of all of this, Hako, I believe, has just single-handedly turned the standings upside down onto its head.
100%. I mean, by giving those guys, their last lap at 2 minutes, it's going to really have a big difference on where their final spot is and what their point total is going to be.
So it's really that battle for. I think Sneaky has P2 pretty much locked down, unless something crazy happens. So it's really going to be that battle for third. Can Art catch up to Speed Racer? Can Sophia get up there? Or is Speed Racer going to take home that final podium spot and make sure that he's safe?
That is a really good point, because even if Hako laps everybody, as long as you're on that podium, you're safe. So
You're safe.
I think the drivers over the next 4 laps should try and get as close to Speed Racer as humanly possible if they want to be able to guarantee their safe passage into the finals next week.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, next week is the final, right? And it's winner take all. So as long as you can just make it to that final race, you have a chance to win the whole thing. So making it to the next round is huge, regardless of how many points you have or where you're at. You just need to get there. And so that podium is definitely a safe way to get there.
Without a doubt. As we've got Hako coming through once again with a 51, almost 52-ish second lead over Sneaky. He's cruising. He is literally cruising right now.
Absolutely. It's almost like he's enjoying the coastal drive. He's got his windows rolled down, some tunes blaring, enjoying his hot hatch ride. I know that's what I would be doing.
Yeah, without a doubt. This is just... He is mind-bogglingly quick.
Yeah.
And Sneaky is definitely quick in his own right. Especially because Sneaky's been able to keep the gap, to my knowledge, under 1 minute the entirety of this race.
That's a great thing about this race. What were you saying there, SlowMoe?
I was saying
my bad, Toon.
that Hako's tires were begging for mercy coming into that turn.
Absolutely, yeah. Begging. With this league, it's really cool to see a huge range of drivers and skills and abilities. It's really anybody can enter.
Vandalay spun out.
Ooh.
Art spun out in turn 1. Sorry.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh, that's definitely gonna impede his progress for these last 2 laps of the race. Already at 1 minute and 27 deficit behind Hako and about 30 seconds behind Speed Racer. Unless there's a pit or a freak accident up ahead, I don't know if Art will be able to really bounce back and secure a podium spot.
I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I must have written down an extra pit stop for Corridor or something. I just don't understand how it could be possible that he's ran an extra pit stop and currently being in 5th place. So I might have a clerical error here on my hands, but that's
so you got a little bit of a
me.
nudge. We've got a nudge between Fredbird and Sophia.
Yeah, that might need to get looked at. That
Yeah,
that wasn't the cleanest of passes right there.
yeah, I feel that might warrant a steward's inquiry.
This joining this league would be a great way if you're a beginner wanting to improve, because as we've talked about, you have people like Hako who are giving out advice and information, and a lot of other really great drivers sharing their knowledge. And one of the things you don't get in the dailies, if you're a lower rated driver, you don't get to race against very many clean drivers for the most
True.
part. And so this is
Very
another
true.
good opportunity to get some good experience in wheel to wheel racing, with some really experienced drivers. But you don't have to be the best to join this league and be a part of it, and you don't have to be the best necessarily to win it. You make it to the finals, and you really do have a chance. So I think it's a great way to get better, if that's something you're looking at doing in a fun, competitive way as well.
Oh yeah, and to expand on that, um, this league is open to literally anybody with Gran Turismo 7 and just and itching for some fun lobbies. We'll accept anybody regardless of age, driving method, driver rating, safety rating, depends on the circumstances maybe. Um, and things like that. Like regardless of who you are or what your background is, you're more than welcome to sign up. And Hako took the checkered
Wow.
flag. Uh,
Wow.
that was.
So
Could you?
everybody's on a lap back. No, Sneaky's same lap, and
Sneaky
Speed
same
Racer
lap.
same lap. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Everybody from Art Vandalay down. Next time they cross the line, that's a checkered flag for them. They're all going to be finishing one down.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
it definitely is amazing. It's a full on spectacle, but you really can't find the right word to justify, like to do justice, Hawker's performance in this race. Because you could say it was dominant, but even dominant just feels too underwhelming. And
Yeah.
and
It
also
yeah.
and also as a surprise, the last one to cross the line is P3. So as you were going to say, TCase.
No, I didn't even notice it. That is great. Well done, Hako. Well done. Good job to everybody. That was completely different from the first race. I love that we got two very different races. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was definitely one for the record books. That was an amazing race by everybody. From P1 all the way down to the last one across the line. An impressive and amazing showing from every single one of you. It has been a pleasure to witness and commentate on your race. Now let's take a look at the
Absolutely.
classified results. We've got, to nobody's surprise, Hako at P1. Coming in just shy of a minute under our GLK Sneaky and Speed Racer, respectively. Then starting the one-lapped traffic, we have Art Vandalay and Corridor rounding out our top five. And then going down from there, we have AngryFredbird, Sophia, and then coming in P8 for this race is Papa's House of Games. It may not have gone the way you guys expected, but it was an amazing showing regardless, and I'm happy you all stuck through it. Coming through to our DNFs, we have Jimmy K9 and Fernando Button. Unfortunate to see that they ran into errors, but I hope you guys will be able to bounce back from this.
Yeah, so
Now,
based on that, I would guess that you've got what, three people with DNFs this week. You had Jimmy, you had Fernando, and then you had Nikki Hunt. So I guess we're looking for the bottom two that finished to see what's going to happen here. And I can't imagine Sophie's going to be one of the bottom two there. So I would say that puts Fredbird, Papa right on the bubble there.
only time will tell once we get to the calculator results. And speaking of calculating those results, please stay with us while we take an intermission to Welcome back, everybody. It is time to take a look at the final standings for this semifinal elimination and also get into the nitty-gritty on what the finals will be. I'm Toon. Still with me is SlowMoe and TCase. Boy, did not expect race 2 to go the way it did. TCase?
I don't think anybody thought it was going to be like that. I mean, only 2 other racers finishing on the lead lap. That was far from any type of prediction I was willing to make.
The same here. What about you, SlowMoe?
Yeah, no, absolutely the same. I mean, we saw Paco lapping people last week, a little bit of a different track car combo, but I didn't expect it to be quite to that same extent. And boy, I would imagine, I guess we're going to see here in just a second once we get to those standings, but I'm going to imagine that plays a huge impact on the bubble drivers.
Yeah, without a doubt. But enough beating around the bush. Let's take a look at those standings, shall we? All right, so in P1 with 76 points is Hako. Right behind him in P2 is GLK Sneaky with 59. P3, Chief Apollo 11 with 58. Then in P4 we have Salamander MN with 55. P5 is GSR Shaggy Doo with 52. There's actually a tie. There is a tie between GSR Shaggy Doo and CVD Driver for the P5 spot in points. I wonder how that's going to play out into the finals. Now into P7 in the standings, we have Stubbs McStubbin, followed by Lakoboro with 48 points, and Stubbs had 50 points, of course. Then we have Speed Racer with 45 points. Now we get into some of the laps traffic. We have Sophia with 42 points, 1 lap down from Hako, and I wouldn't even call not really a race, more of a fight for survival split 2. Then following Sophia, we have Maskawala with 39 points. And then in P12, we have Art Vandalay with 31. Then in P13, we've got Corridor with 28, followed by Papa's House of Games at 25. P15 and below have unfortunately been eliminated. So we have Aero US unfortunately going home and AngryFredbird both tied in points. That's one to keep in mind. And then, of course, our DNFs, for unfortunate reasons, must leave this season.
That's really interesting, because if you look at that last race we just watched, AngryFredbird finished 2 places ahead of Papa, and yet because of the points, AngryFredbird is eliminated, and Papa's moving on to the finals.
Yeah,
I would agree. I think it's really interesting also that you see somebody like Arrow that wasn't one of the lapped contenders that's down on that bubble as well. I really expected it to be the majority of the folks that were on that lapped bubble, but the points are what made the difference and what kept Papa in it.
Oh yeah, and even if someone was lower in the standings, say Arrow or Papa, Corridor, Art Vandalay, Maskawala, like if any of them were about to be eliminated due to points, they would actually have been spared from elimination thanks to the podium rule, correct?
That's 100% correct. Yeah, had they have gotten the podium, that would have kept them in it, regardless of where that point total was. And, the closest person that we saw to that was, correct me if I'm wrong, but number 9 with Speed Racer.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, Speed Racer was lower there on the points, but made it on the podium, so they were free and clear.
But it looks like we've got our grid set for the finals. And moving on to the finals, it's time we stop beating around the bush on that and get to showing you all what it is. So the finals will be on the 25th of August, same time, same channel, and it's going to be the Nürburgring GP.
Wow.
In a 1-hour endurance race in the Super Formula 23.
Oh my goodness.
And I should also make note, for our viewers and drivers that aren't aware already, the starting grid is going to be based upon your points your standings in the points for the league. But it is still anybody's race, because anything can and will happen, as we've seen with just this previous race. And I should also make note that there will be no qualifying. I believe there is limited tuning. Details for that will be available in the Discord at some point after this broadcast has ended. I don't know, SlowMoe, TCase, what do you guys think about the car and track combination for the finals?
Oh, man,
Literally
really
the opposite of what we just had.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see it. I think it's also relevant to bring up, and don't quote me on this, but I think they're going to have some ability to adjust ride height. I think they're going to have a little bit of the downforce ability to tune. So you're going to see these guys with a little bit of ability to tweak and tune these cars, which we haven't really seen a whole lot up until this point. So, somebody could really over tweak or over tune their cars. And I mean, when you're talking about these super formula cars, oh golly, one little mistake is just worse than it could have been in a heavy damage. So man, this is going to be an awesome final.
It really is, and these are high downforce cars, and they get disrupted so quickly when another car's around them. And at a track like Nürburgring GP circuit, I mean, it's going to be a real challenge. You're going to see tire wear at different rates just because of what downforce is being run and how close they're following to other cars. Completely different driving style to what we just watched with a road car on a road track, and now we're getting super formula on a track designed for that type of car.
Yeah, and I think they're going to have to use all three tire compounds, if I'm not mistaken. So soft, medium, and hard. They're going to have to go through all those, which, again, in a 60-minute endurance, boy, we're really going to make sure that strategy is in play again. Make no mistake about it.
Yeah, I believe you might be on the right track in terms of the tires, but the drivers and ourselves will also know when the full details are posted after this broadcast. But I also do want to make special note that you mentioned the damage. If my memory serves me right, it's also still going to be heavy damage with no ghosting. Yeah. So just like with Split 2, one little slip and this is winner takes all. So there is also a potential for weather as well. So there's there's tons
throwing
of
everything.
Yeah, this finals is going to be literally throwing the kitchen sink at all of our competitors. If you had some not very important plans for this coming week, I'd cancel them, because this final race is going to test every single aspect of you and your driving, be it from your patience, your car control, your strategizing. This is one of those times I am very glad that I am up here in the commentary booth. I do not envy our competitors.
No, they need to start tonight and get to practicing, because this is 60 minutes. That's they're going to be sweaty. They're going to be exhausted. It's going to be a lot of work.
Oh yeah, and you don't get the only other race that's this long is in the Spa-Francorchamps money grind track. And I should also make note, when it says Super Formula, it doesn't matter which Super Formula 23 you use. The Honda, the Toyota, as long as it's the 2023 Super Formula car, you can run it within the tuning limitations that will be provided later on. Because, well, say what you want, they're the same car. I'm gonna have that target on me. Come at me.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't argue that. The other thing to really consider is this is a absolutely extremely technical track. You can't just jump out here and run this track if you haven't practiced it on the car tire combination. And then you throw in weather. My goodness, the preparation that these guys have put in up to this point is just going to be nothing compared to what they're going to have to put in to really put up a good show here in the finals. And we see what they're up against, right? I mean, it's a 60-minute endurance race. How many people is Hawko going to lap in this final?
I think the question is who isn't going to get lapped by Hako. TCase, if you were one of the competitors and saw this combination with these parameters, what's the first thing that's coming to your mind?
That's probably it right there. No, I mean, just practice. And practicing with other drivers on the road. I think that's going to be key, is getting some real race practice, because these cars are so affected by the other cars around them. You really need to know how it's going to handle. Otherwise, you're going right into the back of somebody going into turn one, because you don't have any downforce when you're following, and when you hit the brakes where you usually do on a qualifying lap, you're not going to stop in time because you don't have any of that downforce. It's also going to cause the tires to wear faster. So I think the best thing to do is watch some replays, find footage of people doing these races in this car to see where their braking points are, what their shift points are, and then definitely do some wet weather practice. If there's a chance for rain, you want to be prepared for some rain, and do some running in the wet with the slick tires, do some running in the wet with the intermediates. Get a good feel from these cars, because the back end will break loose at any moment if you're not careful.
And speaking of the wet weather, isn't Nürburgring GP, or just the Nürburgring in its entirety, one of the few tracks that can get torrential downpour outside of like Tsukuba and Spa?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah. Yeah, this race is going to be throwing the kitchen sink at everybody. Wow.
Can't wait to see it. And I can't wait to see the liveries that they come up with, because there's a lot of opportunity to make some really good looking cars out there as well.
Oh, without a doubt. The liveries for these are going to be amazing, be it nods to Super Formula in the real world, Formula 1, 2, 3, E. Yeah, we'll be seeing a lot of creativity on display when it comes to these liveries.
I'll tell you, the other thing I'm really looking forward to is just, the top speed that these cars get, the way that these drivers are out there pushing these things. It's still amazing to me that the races we've seen have been as clean as they have been. Case, you compared it to daily races. This is just nothing like jumping into a regular lobby. It's just not like that. Yes, there are mistakes that are being made here and there, a break point that's missed every once in a while. But you just don't have people spinning people out for fun, or there's no trolling going on. It's been such exciting racing to watch. So this final is going to be something, and this one may go down in history, being one of the more exciting ones, especially for the first annual Naughty Racing League finals that we're getting ready for.
Now, you guys should also be aware that this is only the beginning for the Naughty Racing League. This isn't it for us. We're going to be back with Season 2 with even more intense racing, even more hungry competitors. We're just getting started, and with all of your support as viewers, as competitors, stewards, this, that, and the other, getting the word out and letting your friends know, putting this league on the map, and this channel on the map, most importantly, this league can only go up from here.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a streamer to join the league. There are
Absolutely.
certainly people in here that do a lot of the streaming. There's a lot of people that do it and enjoy it, and that's cool. It's not a prerequisite, so it's an exciting thing to watch, and I just, I'm just, we've said how honored we are to be watching, and I'm glad to be here, and I can't wait to see the finals. I just can't wait.
Neither can I. I am getting word from production. There's been an abrupt change in the standings. Let's take a look at that.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Arrow's time, there was a change to it. So, oh my.
Oh, wow.
So, if I'm reading this correctly, Arrow just avoided elimination.
5.
Yeah, Arrow just avoided elimination due to a clerical error in the total race time. So that means we have a slight change in the eliminations. So instead of Arrow going home and leaving us, it will unfortunately be Papa's House of Games.
Well, that's unfortunate. I mean, it's a shame, but it did end up playing out kind of as I expected, with the lap traffic being the folks that were in trouble on the bubble. And, again, I got to go back and watch that replay, because if he actually did an extra pit stop and still ended up in front of those guys, man, he was pushing hard with that Civic. So kudos to the folks that, Corridor, Art, Arrow, Mascoalo, Sophia, I'm sorry, not all of them got lapped, but, being on the bubble like that, Sophia wasn't necessarily on the bubble, but those guys fought for the positions they have, and they have earned their way into that final we're going to see.
And I think those that didn't get eliminated, so Corridor, Art, Arrow, those in the lower standings, like after everything's done, might want to breathe just a slight sigh of relief and feel a little bit lucky that there were 3 DNFs. Because if the DNFs didn't happen, these standings could be radically different from what they have been the last couple times we've paid them a visit. But unfortunately, it is time for us to wind down and call this a broadcast. TCase, is there anything you would like to say before we wrap things up for the night?
Oh, well, I think I've said it a few times tonight, but I'll say it again, and that is to please support our drivers, support us hosts, like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things you know to do on YouTube, and check out all the cool content out there. I've had a lot of fun, and I am so looking forward to next week.
SlowMoe, anything from you?
Yeah, it's been an honor to go through these races with you guys. Toon, TCase, wonderful job this week. Thank you guys for the great company. What awesome racing we got to see tonight. The final is going to be something. So it's going to be a great week of preparation and talking to these drivers and seeing how they're getting ready for this. And I just can't wait.
Neither can I. Well, we have been your hosts. I hope you've all had a great time in watching the racing action. Thank you all so much for spending your Friday nights with us, and we will see you all next week for the grand finals of Season 1 of the Naughty Racing League. Bye-bye.